This is the one person you don't want to make an enemy of. 5 fierce generals of the Warring States period. There are many brave generals, 5 generals, and strategies, but the ones you definitely don't want to make enemies with are the generals called fierce generals. For the enemy, the sight of them cutting straight into the enemy lines and crushing with their overwhelming military power would be fear itself. In this article, I will introduce you to 5 fierce generals who ran through the battlefield. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you have any requests, please send them to us. Bravery and courage, Chinsei first. When it comes to fierce generals, it's that guy, Muneshige Tachibana. The twin peaks of the Otomo clan, the warring feudal lords of Kyushu, are Dosetsu Tachibana and Joun Takahashi. Tachibana Muneshige was the father of both of them. Muneshige, who was called Goyu Chinsei by Hideyoshi, was the perfect son of war. In the 14th year of Tensho, 1586, Otomo, who was under pressure from Shimazu, had fallen on hard times. Finally, 50,000 Shimazu troops invaded Chikuzen, where Muneshige was located. His father Joun was killed when Iwaya Castle was destroyed. The castle of Homanjo, where his younger brother Munemasu was holed up, was also open and the family was taken away. A messenger came to Muneshige to ask for his surrender. Surrender? Nonsense! My father was successfully defeated and my brother was humiliated. Now I am prepared to fight a glorious battle and die. On the other hand, Shimazu Tadanaga, the general of Shimazu's army, was in trouble. I had hoped to get him to surrender and take Chikuzen, but he is indeed Joun's son. However, I heard that the Toyotomi's large army is closing in on Ogura, so we can't just attack by force. At about this time, Hideyoshi Toyotomi's large army was approaching at the behest of Sorin Otomo, and Shimazu was growing impatient. If he took his time in Chikuzen, it could be a battle, so Tadanaga ordered all the troops to retreat. However, Muneshige did not want to miss this opportunity. He gathered his troops and made them ready for a follow-up attack. My lord, the enemy is a large army. If they strike back, we will be in trouble. You are right. Let us wait for Toyotomi's reinforcements and defeat the enemy with full strength. However, Muneshige did not listen to him and opened his mouth decisively. They have a valid point, but can we just sit back and let them get away with it? I would rather be laughed at than be told he is the unworthy son who could not even avenge his father. I would rather fight and die gracefully than be laughed at it. Even if they stop me, I will go to battle. The two vassals were convinced by these words, and the Tachibana force, whose morale had just hit the heavens, began to pursue. They inflicted heavy damage on the fleeing Shimazu army. They also regained the 2 castles that had been taken from them. When Hideyoshi heard of Muneshige's bravery, he praised him greatly, and Muneshige was given a facelift. Next, Muneshige demonstrated his fearsome bravery in the Battle of Hekiteikan during the Chosen War. The Japanese army gathered to intercept the Ming Dynasty troops moving south, and Muneshige and Munemasu became the spearheads. The battle began as a crash between the spearheads. While Munemasu's troops were drawing the enemy away, Muneshige's troop flanked them. Good, as I thought, the enemy's flank is empty. Push them down. After pushing the enemy, the Tachibana forces continued to pursue and achieved a great victory. Immediately afterwards, however, the enemy's main force pushed out, and their number was more than 10 times of their allies. Main army of our side has not yet finished its deployment. we must buy time at all costs. In the midst of the fierce battle, they managed to repel the enemy at a great cost, but their allies were exhausted from the early morning battle and were in a shattered state when they returned to the main camp. Tachibana Dono's troops are exhausted. You may rest in the rear. My army is not so weak. Please add us to your army. I see. That is indeed the best soldier in the West. In that case, Kobayakawa Dono will take the front, I will take the right flank, and Tachibana Dono will take the left flank. Thus, the main force of the Japanese army deployed in a narrow area to intercept the Ming army. As the enemy closed in on them, they attacked with fire from 3 directions. The Ming army, which had not expected the enemy to attack at the same time, fell into chaos and collapsed. Seeing this, Muneshige scolded his allies and ordered them to pursue the attack. The enemy is in total collapse. Let's hit the enemy at once and make sure they can never get up again. The decisive battle, which started around 10 a.m., lasted until late in the evening, and Muneshige defeated the enemy completely. Muneshige was stained red with the blood of the enemy soldiers and looked like a red devil. The enemy's helmets were so beaten down that his beloved sword became destroyed and could not be returned into its sheath. The Ming army suffered as 6,000 deaths, many of which were caused by Muneshige's pursuit. His valor is like that of a demon god, Shimazu's most fierce general, Tadamoto Niro. Among the Shimazu army, which was a fighting force that would make even a child cry, Tadamoto Niro was known as a particularly fierce general. Although small in stature, he excelled in military prowess and was feared as the demon Musashi. In the attack on Okuchi Castle, he attacked the castle in despite of being seriously wounded and successfully defeated an enemy warrior who was known for his bravery in single combat. He was praised for his bravery as like a demon god. After that, he also served in the battles of Kisakibaru and Okitanawate. It is said that he was always in the battlefield and made great achievements. It was at the Battle of Hitsukigawa that Tadamoto showed his true worth. In Tensho 14, 1586, Hidehisa Sengoku and other Shikoku forces entered Kyushu as part of Hideyoshi Toyotomi's advance troops. At a military conference, Tadamoto made a proposal to Iehisa Shimazu, the general commander. The Shikoku forces will surely cross the river to stop us from attacking Tsuruga Castle. We should draw them into a certain extent and then strike them. Of course, we should strike them with our hands. What is this move? It's that one, the one we did in Okitanawate. Oh, fishing Nobuse. But I wonder if it will work. There's nothing to worry about. They should have never seen it before. Chikaranosuke Honjo and I will be hiding in the mountains, so please order your men to act as decoys. Alright, then let Hisanobu Ijui be the decoy. In this way, the Shikoku forces, having fallen into Shimazu's trap, clashed with the Ijuin forces and pushed them back. Then, taking advantage of the victory, they pushed forward. However, they did not realize that the formation had been stretched out for a long time. Tadamoto, who had been hiding in the mountains, smiled gloomily. They have taken advantage of our plan. They are so blue in the face. Sengoku seems to be an idiot. Now, fire your guns at them. Let them know how terrifying the Shimazu are. It was Hidehisa Sengoku's troops that received the brunt of the attack, starting with a volley of guns and then a fierce attack from an unexpected flank. The troops of the Lord Chikaranosuke also responded. Confused and unable to even defend himself, Hidehisa abandoned his allies and withdrew. Having divided the Shikoku forces, Tadamoto next approached the troops of Nobuchika Chosakabe. I've heard that Tosa's heir is young, but his army is quite well organized. He's different from the fool I saw earlier. At that time, Nobuchika was surrounded by the enemy and was desperately trying to defend himself. However, his allies were defeated one after another, and he gradually lost his ability to resist. Nobuchika's end was a fierce one. He defeated many enemy soldiers with his naginata, and then drew his sword and fought hard. At last, he was struck down by a spear and died. After the battle, Tadazumi Tani arrived as an envoy of Chosakabe. He came to pick up the corpse of Nobunaga. Tadamoto was also present at the scene. He apologized with tears streaming down his face. Please, forgive me for what I did, even if it's the way of the warring states. Nobuchika Dono's end was a noble one. If we had not been enemies, I would have liked to have talked to him. Tadamoto is said to have sent a priest of his old acquaintance to accompany Tadasumi to Tosa. The battle between Toyotomi and Shimazu reached its final stage. Tadamoto decided to stay in Okuchi Castle and made preparations for the battle. However, the head of the family, Yoshihisa Shimazu, gave up fighting further and finally gave in. Even so, Tadamoto refused to give up the fight. Yoshihisa was so troubled that he sent a messenger to Okuchi Castle to rebuke Tadatomo with a letter. I have already made peace with Hideyoshi. You should know that any further bowing is an act of treason against me. At this point, Tadamoto decided to surrender and finally open the castle. Hideyoshi then asked Tadamoto, who was lying flat on his back, the following question. What do you think, Tadamoto? Do you still intend to fight me? If my lord Yoshihisa commands it, I will fight him again and again at any time. However, Yoshihisa is a man who keeps his promises with sincerity, and he will never go wrong with his promises. When Hideyoshi heard this, he was so impressed with Tadamoto's attitude, and he gave him a wakizashi on the spot. Tadamoto was not only a fierce general, but also possessed in loyalty of a vassal. The figure carrying a metal rod is a demon, Makabe Ujimoto, the most fierce general in Kanto. In the Kanto region during the Warring States period, the Hojo Odawara clan was thought to be the sole victor, but there were many other powers in the region. One of them was the Satake clan, a warlord from Hitachi. The Satake clan allied with the weak forces in the surrounding areas to fight against Hojo and protect their own territory. The Kunishu who sided with Satake was Makabe Ujimoto. Father Hisamoto was also known for his bravery, and Ujimoto may have inherited his DNA. When he was young, he studied swordsmanship under the great swordsman Bokuden Tsukahara, and later became the founder of Kasumi-ryu Boujutsu. Most warlords would have taken a spear or sword into battle, but not Ujimoto. It is said that he wielded a weapon called a kanasaibo, which was made by cutting an oak tree into a hexagonal shape and reinforcing it with rivets. The power of this weapon was immense. It was so great that when Ujimoto wielded, enemy soldiers were blown away. Ujimoto became known as Oni Makabe, and his enemies trembled when he stood on the battlefield. He was a true demon. It was in 1569 that Ujimoto showed his fearsome generalship. Ujiharu Oda, who was on the side of Hojo, tried to attack Kakioka Castle on Satake's side and set up a camp at a place called Tebaizaka. Hiding in Kakioka Castle were Masakage Kajiwara, and about 1,000 other soldiers. Masakage called for help for his lord Yoshishige Satake and Yoshimasa Ota, and Ujimoto rushed to his aid. The two armies confronted each other across the Tegai slope, but Ujiharu's bloodlust got the better of him. My side is positioned at the top of the hill. If we run down from here, the enemy will collapse with our momentum. However, the enemy has the demon Makabe. If we attack him easily, aren't we going to suffer? We have far more troops than them. They'll decide the game at once. And so the Oda forces ran up the hill with all their forces and tried to break the Satake forces directly below. But you, Ujiharu, it seems that you have not been defeated yet again. This time, let's defeat them once and for all. To the front of the artillery! When Ujimoto gave the order, all the guns that had been standing by opened fire at once. The Oda troops were so dismayed by the counterattack that even Ujiharu's chief retainer, Harusuke Okami, was killed. Ujimoto had invited monks and soldiers from Negoroji Temple in Kishu for this occasion. So this is the power of guns. Hurry up and rebuild the camp. At that time, guns were still rare in the Kanto region, and Ujimoto was quick to recognize the effectiveness of gun. Seeing that he had the upper hand, Ujimoto ordered all his troops. Do not miss this opportunity. I will take the lead, so everyone follow me. As soon as he said, Ujimoto rushed forward and crushed the enemy lines. The enemy soldiers ran for cover, and those who failed to escape fell prey to Kanasaibo one after another. Ujimoto's appearance was just like an asura. As if he were going through an uninhabited field, he never relented in his pursuit. What a phoenix of the warring states, that's nothing. Ujiharu fled for Oda Castle, but it was already occupied by another force that Ujimoto had ordered, and he had no choice but to fall back to Tsuchiura Castle. Tadakatsu Honda, a man of valor who saved Ieyasu's life many times. Tadakatsu Honda, who was said to have two things too much for Ieyasu, the head of the Kara dynasty and Heihachi Honda, was praised as a fierce general along the Muneshige Tachibana of the West. The battle that made Tadakatsu's name famous was the fierce battle called the Battle of Hitokotozaka. In the third year of Genki, 1572, Shingen Takeda invaded Totoumi, which was ruled by Ieyasu Tokugawa, and finally approached Hamamatsu. Ieyasu went into battle to intercept him, but he was defeated and forced to retreat. In addition, the pursuit of the Takeda army was rapid. Nobusawa and his men had caught up with them and were about to attack them from behind. It was Tadakatsu who stood in front of the Takeda forces to act as their shingari. Carrying his prize spear Tombogiri under his arm, he and his men intercept the enemy. We must be dead soldiers. Until we see our allies retreat, we will not pass this place, even if it means to die. With this order, he boldly charged into the enemy lines and fought as one. Not expecting to find such a highly motivated force in the defeated Tokugawa army, the Takeda army was forced to fight a hard battle. On the contrary, they were pushed back and their losses only increased. So that's Heihachi Honda. He is a warrior whose courage is beyond description. Take them out when they are tired. Eventually, Tadakatsu's troops fulfilled their mission with wounds all over their bodies. No, Tadakatsu was strangely not wounded at all. After watching the retreat of the main body, Tadakatsu now turned his horse's head and tried to retreat. However, by that time, the enemy was already behind him, blocking his way out. An enemy here too. Then we must defeat him. You people, this Heihachi is running, so follow me. There was no one who could stand against Tadakatsu, who descended the slope with tremendous speed and became a demon god. Sakon Kobayashi, general of Takeda's side, couldn't help but open a path of retreat. You are truly a fierce general. No matter how many lives I have, it will not be enough to fight against him. As he passed by Sakon's side, Tadakatsu is said to have suddenly slowed down and asked him a question. Thanks to you, I am saved. Let me ask your name. My name is Sakon Kobayashi. After all, Honda Dono is the great man I heard the sound of. You may pass before I change my mind. In this way, thanks to Tadakatsu's effort, Ieyasu escaped with his life. In the 12th year of Tensho, 1584, Hideyoshi Hashiba and Ieyasu Tokugawa, who had been enemies, faced each other in Komaki. Ieyasu, who had won the Battle of Nagakute, was about to retreat to his own camp. Once his men were defeated, Hideyoshi, who still had energy left in him, ordered a pursuit and tried to attack from behind with a large army of 20,000 men. The rear of the Tokugawa army was empty, so if they were attacked here, they would be in a tight spot. Tadakatsu then led an army of about 500 men and took over the role of Shingari. You are trying to stop me with only a few men? Try firing a gun at him. They will quickly retreat. Although the gunboats attacked vigorously, Tadakatsu was calm and composed. He even rode into the river in front of the enemy and let his horse drink the water without hesitation. This is a foolish thing to do. I will not remain silent. Let's send out our troops at once and take him down. However, Hideyoshi stared at Tadakatsu's figure and spoke some unexpected words. No, that's not it. That was a sign of his determination to let Ieyasu escape. If we attack here, we will certainly be in for a rough ride. Hideyoshi was so impressed with Tadakatsu's attitude that he decided against further pursuit. In a pinch, there's a chance. What kind of determination did you show your subordinates? Katsue Shibata. Nobunaga Oda's chief advisor, Katsue Shibata, was also known as a fierce general. He was also known as Oni Shibata. However, stories of Katsue's success on the battlefield are few and far between. Because of his excellent leadership skills, he was probably more of a commander or organizer. However, there are anecdotes that shows Katsue's valor. That is the episode of Kamewari Shibata. In the 11th year of Eiroku, 1568, Nobunaga, who had come to Kyoto from Mino, stationed his chief retainers in Minami Omi to secure a route to Kyoto. Katsuie was entrusted with the castle of Chokoji. However, Jotei Rokkaku, who had been driven out of Omi by Nobunaga, was vigilantly looking for an opportunity to reclaim his former territory. In the first year of Genki era, 1570, the Rokkaku army took advantage of Nobunaga's inability to move and surround Chokoji Castle. It was also the time when the allied forces of Azai and Asakura were approaching Omi and no reinforcements could be expected. Katsuie decided to stay in the castle, but there was one thing that worried him. There were no wells in the castle, and he had to rely on the little water that flowed from the valley, making it difficult to secure water. Eventually, when the Rokkaku army learned of the castle's weaknesses, they shut off the water from the valley, and the castle quickly suffered from water shortage. Although the castle had stored water, it was not enough. The enemy surrounding the castle was a large force, and their allies were not coming to reinforce them, and were running out of water. Well, what should we do? Then, as if seeing through Katsue's predicament, a messenger from the Rokkaku army arrived to recommend surrender. When Katsue heard the messenger's words, he immediately refused to surrender. When the messenger was about to leave, he said to Katsue, "I'm sorry, but my hands got dirty on the way up to this castle mountain. I apologize, but I would like to borrow some water." Katsue then ordered his attendants to bring water to the mountain with an unconcerned look on their faces. What they brought was a large bottle of water. "Wash your hands with this as much as you like." The messenger was surprised by this. He thought the castle was suffering from lack of access to water, but he was told that there was plenty of water. And when he finished washing his hands, he threw away all the waters in the bottle. But after the messenger left, Katsue regretted it greatly. "I'm really in trouble. I couldn't help but feel emboldened in the face of the enemy's messenger. But now we'll have even more water shortage." At this point, Katsue made up his mind. Even if they continue to work hard here, they will just rot away. Then he decided to find a way out. The next day, Katsue gathered his soldiers in the garden and quietly spoke to them. In front of him was a water jar with only 3 bottles left. "This will be our last feast, but there is no sake, only water. After drinking as much of this water as I can, I think I'll leave the castle. It is hell to stay here and hell to go on. Then let us meet our end as warriors should." After everyone had drunk their fill of water, Katsue poked the bottle with his naginata and broke it. Just before dawn, he left the castle and attacked the enemy. The still sleeping Rokkaku troops were immediately thrown into confusion, with some starting to fight each other and others running away. The Shibata forces finally broke through the enemy's siege and won a great victory, earning Katsue the nickname Bottle Splitter Shibata.